Hello, fellow Star Wars collectors. It finally happened. Acolyte retro figures arrived. Let's have a look inside. For obvious reasons, I am not a retro figure collector by choice. God knows the people in this fan base can be a bit ornery about what gets produced and what doesn't. So there are people who say that there's no logical reason to do new entertainment, new media, I think they call it, in retro style. And I don't know if I agree with that, because there's no reason to do anything. You know, we're all just playing with Monopoly money here, guys. I'm on the record in the past as saying what Hasbro really needs to do if they want to fill out characters, which is probably not why they did this, but again, the strategy of the retro collection baffles me. But if they really want to fill out characters, what they need to do is return to 5-point of articulation, right? Because clearly the math ain't mathin' on these hyper-articulated vintage collection figures, which I love. I mean, I am so glad that there are so many vintage collection figures for the Acolyte. Like, there's 3 already. There's going to be 2 more. They apparently weren't told the stranger existed, except even that theory doesn't work, because they did do the helmet. So unless turnaround on designing a helmet is way faster than turnaround on designing a character, I don't get why they just have skipped the stranger. But in the meantime, we've got a lot of character options for the rest of the Acolyte cast, if you don't mind that they're coming from 3 radically different toy lines, being the Black Series, the Vintage Collection, and the Retro Collection. So if you want Kelnaka, you got to go Black Series, and he's going to tower over your 3 3/4 inch figures. And if you want Jackie, who's my favorite character from the Acolyte, this is, I guess, the only way we're going to get her in 3 3/4 inch scale, which is a little disappointing. But that is literally the reason I bought this box. Kind of a new experience for me. I certainly haven't bought any of these box sets. They come all packaged up like that. This is going to be a very useful box to put other carded figures in later. Boy, she is just wedged in there. And by she, I of course mean Yord. So let's start with the dirty little secret. I don't think I'm actually going to open these guys today. I might open them in the future, but given that I do have both Osha and May in these exact looks in the Vintage Collection for my display, I don't really feel like I need these 2. I mean, they are cool, and I think anyone who collected Kenner when they were a kid is real fond of anything that comes with a vinyl cape. So, I mean, May might get busted out of there sooner rather than later, and if I'm going to do her, I might as well do Osha as well. But for now, I'm going to slip these back in the box. And then there's Yord, who, when I ordered the Acolyte retro figures, I thought that the odds of getting Yord were about as low as the odds of getting Jackie. And now, of course, Yord has been announced for the Vintage Collection, and I have pre-ordered him. I am going to be opening Yord today, though. We'll also be opening Jedi Master Saul, even though I have a Jedi Master Saul action figure. As you can see, different outfit. What do us toy collectors love more than a different outfit? And obviously, we're never going to see the High Republic robes version of this character ever. So, and then there's these 2, who, in the case of Mother Anastasia, I can basically guarantee, like, I will make you $1,000 bet right now, we are never going to see another action figure of this character. I like Jodie Turner-Smith. I like Mother Anastasia. I'm glad to have an action figure of her. And again, going back to the kind of the Kenner nostalgia of it, just like the Emperor when I was a kid, I love a character that is robed, but those robes are legs. And finally, Jackie, who, again, yeah, basically this is the reason I bought the set in the first place, because I wanted a properly scaled Jackie to stand aside my other Acolyte characters in my display up there. I have Jackie Black Series because that's how much I like Jackie, but if she sits with the other figures in Bib Fortuna's palace up there, she's going to look like a monster. So we're opening 4 today. Who should we start with? Survey says Yord. Ooh. So for Yord, they've gone with that vintage Return of the Jedi Luke style cloth for the robe, which is great because it actually, I mean, it doesn't look quite as roby as the cloth that they use in Vintage Collection robes, but it also doesn't poof out like crazy like the cloth they use in Vintage Collection robes. And then our guy Yord, yellow lightsaber, and unlike the one that came with, say, Bespin Luke, which I'm assuming this is just literally a dupe of, it's actually yellow in the show. I mean, I was gonna say it's been a long time since we've had a character with a canonically yellow lightsaber with a toy, but actually it's been never. This is the first Hasbro 3 3/4 inch figure of a character with a canonically yellow lightsaber, right? And by canonically, I mean like, yeah, they did Plo Koon back in 2000, and they didn't know that George was going to be really specific about all the Jedi only having green and blue. So his lightsaber is non-canonical. Maybe there was like, what's her name from KOTOR? Anybody? Was never my bag. But anyway, there's Yord, and he's going, yeah! Here's something I'm really curious about. Peg hole size. Are they TVC-sized peg holes, Kenner-sized peg holes, or neither, which would be the worst case scenario? TVC, too loose. Kenner, too fat. So it's actually neither. The good news is they've got big, wodgy, normal feet. They're not being clever with feet, so the figure has a halfway decent chance of actually standing up on its own, unlike anything that's been produced in the vintage collection in the last 8 years. Time to do Saul, who is a very complicated character. He may wear a pristine white robe, but his soul is not nearly as pristine. His cloak is a whole other thing again. In fact, I don't think this rhymes with anything that's ever happened in Kenner. Like that is or the vintage collection. Like that is just a different type of cloth, a very light, diaphanous cloth for his High Republic dress whites. Saul comes with a blue lightsaber. This would be the lightsaber that came with Jedi Luke originally before they found out Luke's lightsaber was going to be green. Little fun fact for you. That's 2 Jedi. All right, Mother Anastasia. This one, again, this is the character that I bet you dollars to donuts. This is the only action figure we are ever going to get of that. It's almost a shame to break her out, but I don't keep stuff in package. Now, Mother Anastasia comes with nothing except her own self. She has a surprisingly long hairpiece there. I don't mean surprisingly because that's obviously accurate to the character. I just wouldn't think that the retro collection design would allow for that sort of thing. As I indicated earlier, she does have awesome, like Princess Leia style Kenner legs. She ain't gonna fall down, man. Look at the wheelbase on that thing. That is actually a decent likeness for Jodie Turner-Smith, given the constraints of the retro style design aesthetic. It won't stand up to close-up scrutiny, but it's good enough that I at least have that character. And finally, Jackie Lon, absolute champ. Episode 5 of The Acolyte, probably the best lightsaber fight I've ever seen, and she was a big reason for that. And of course, Hasbro decided, well, we don't need an action figure of her in the vintage collection, but we do have her in this scale. Like Yord, she has got the Luke style cloth for the Jedi robe. She is the appropriate height shorter than an adult character, which means they can do a child. Well, she's not really a child, she's kind of a teenager, but they can do a younger character in 5-point of articulation retro collection, but they apparently can't do it for any of the main characters of the Skeleton Crew. They can't do it for Omega. They can't do it for young Leia. It's really, really weird. Again, Hasbro, I just want you to think about it. What if you stopped with all the fancy articulation crap and just made simpler figures of lead characters from good shows? Green Kenner style lightsaber, much greener than the Luke one with Jedi Luke, as I recall. Anyway, it's almost like fluorescent green. She's gonna need it because she's got to fight the Stranger that's never coming out. I wish we lived in a world where that was a character that you could have in TVC, but since we don't live in that world, and I suspect at this point we never are going to, she's close enough. Good likeness for the character. Obviously, it's a great design, that particular alien character. So, Phelan? Is it Phelan? Yeah. And yeah, looks like Jackie. So I might even just like gussy her up, give her a proper lightsaber, like a TVC lightsaber, and do my best to ignore the fact that she looks very different from all of her cohorts. So that's 4 retro collection Acolyte figures, with 2 waiting in the box for some future day when I will decide their fates. This took a long time to get to Canada. I know it's been out in the States for a while. We finally got him here. I'm really, just in terms of supporting media that I like, I'm really chuffed that these figures exist. I wish I understood the strategy better, as always. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope if you are an Acolyte fan like me, you enjoy whatever toys you can get that bring the Acolyte home.